houses, we frame houses, we do finish sheetrock, we paint, we texture, we do concrete, but really we're building relationships. And I guess before this, I had a business I started in college off of a business plan I wrote for a college class in my undergrad up at UMary. And I bought a pressure washer, and we turned this pressure washing business into an oil field, sandblast, and paint.
All right.
And it was really an interesting time to be in the Bakken during the boom. I know you're from out in that area.
Yep.
And just to see the equipment and to be on a rig site, it was almost like working on Mars at night.
Yes.
Because it was so strange to, work under light towers and see this big equipment. And to be honest with you, my first business, I was young. There was a lot of dollars involved. It was the Wild West out there. We made some mistakes. And really, when I talk about building relationships with Anytime Works, my business, this is kind of my second go at this. And we want to make sure we do it right, and just treating everyone with the highest level of respect and courtesy and, compassion. And, we really understand that when we're working on your house, like you're living there at night at 5 o'clock when we go home, and it's got to be clean and it's going to last for a lifetime. So we're just really making sure we do it right. And, we're not driven on profits. It's just all about the relationships and making sure it's done the right way the first time. And,
right.
That's where we're at.
Yeah. As a small business person myself, and the situation that we're in right now, I think, those relationships are everything. And that's why it hurts so much when you see another small business failing. And you just use that farmer, like, okay, we got to, here's a flood coming. Let's get the dike higher and get people out and stuff like that. And that's just our nature, and especially in the small business. So that's why you continue to be success. So, so thank you for that. I forgot that you're out here in the West during the boom. And that was also, what's going on with the oil prices right now. It hurts my heart about what's happening to all the small businesses. I mean, the oil isn't just about the oil companies, it's about our communities. But I don't want to get too into that, because I want to know more about, so you have been like driving these roads. You've probably driven every road in North Dakota as a small business, as a hustle. Yeah, I mean, you just hustle, right? And so I'm sure that's given you quite a different perspective than somebody that maybe stayed in one place, which is fine. That's also good. But can you tell us a little bit about the roads of North Dakota? Because what I say in my campaign is, it's not about Main Street. Main Street is connected to the highway, which is connected to the gravel roads, which is connected to the cow path, and it comes right back to Main Street. And so those roads, and knowing those roads, are super important. We don't like posers, so.
No, so in between my first business and my current business, I worked for 5 years with both the Department of Agriculture and the Public Service Commission. At the Department of Ag, I was able to work rolling out an auditing program to ensure that fertilizer dealers paid their fair share tax. And then I transitioned into the Public Service Commission, regulating elevators, making sure that they paid farmers on time. And also, every once in a while, elevator's not doing so well, and we try to, of course, come in and help out and make sure that they can make good on their contracts. And every once in a while, there's an elevator goes under, and we kind of help with that process, making sure that farmers get paid whole. So in those two jobs, I spent 2 or 3 nights a week on the road in hotels. And like you said, I do kind of brag about driving on every road in the state. And whether you're in Carson or Cavalier or Crosby, North Dakota, they're all kind of the same, but they're all uniquely different too. Kind of like I said, the businesses in the roundtable last night, each of them was facing a little bit unique problem, whether they were worried about, starting up on COVID and liability towards their employees and customers, or cash flow or whatever. Beulah and Hazen are similar towns, but they're not the same. And by getting to travel the state, I was really able to kind of see a lot of ingenuity. And, like one gentleman I used to regulate as a grain warehouse, this gentleman out of Carrington, North Dakota, he crushes all the hemp seed. So for about 8 or 9 years, you're able to grow industrial hemp. The hemp goes to this facility in Carrington. He crushes it into oil. And that's maybe not so uncommon in the in the oilseed realm. There's about 8 or 9 people with similar business models. But what's really interesting is that he does the hemp seed and he markets this product all over the world.
Oh,
And I like, traveling. You asked me about my family. Me and my wife love to travel. We have 37 states and 5 countries, I think. Roger and Carrington's got like 37 countries in all 50 states. And he can talk about flying to Italy to market this hemp seed oil that's grown and raised in North Dakota. And so driving on every road in the state isn't just about, the hot beef sandwiches at the diner and Glen Ullin or wherever, but it's really getting to see the kind of ingenuity that these people not only put a business together and a client base, but they literally made a market on an international level. And that is just amazing. That it's just like a farmer, like you drive by a million farms on interstate or on 83 or whatever road. But to think that he was able to put it together and market a product in Italy or, China or Japan, he's been to all of them. And it's really that ingenuity, I think, that makes me love North Dakota, kind of how you introed.
yeah.
And I guess beyond that, like I said, I worked in the Bakken and we were all up and down the state over there. I grew up in the valley, so I'm actually kind of looking at my map on the wall right here when you see me looking,
Okay.
looking for all these towns because, I guess I'm a Gen Xer. I have a map on the wall, as a millennial might just have an iPhone.
Exactly.
But yeah, it's just really interesting to go to all these small towns and to realize that everyone is in this together. This whole business system and ecosystem is really intertwined in a strange way, and we're all relying on each other. And just kind of gives me an appreciation of North Dakota and how we all come together to make this state what it is.
Yeah, I have the exact same experience, and I'm so glad to hear that. And it's like we aren't really that impressed by big money. We're more impressed by what somebody's done, with their life and their ingenuity, and especially when it's like North Dakota. So and I'm glad you're one of those.
Yeah.
so 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 I mean, I could probably talk to you a thousand questions, and I'll be talking with you throughout the campaign. You are running for state auditor, but again, is there something that you would like to share that I haven't asked? I just want to give people a little taste of the generation that's coming up. And this, you have a young family. North Dakota is losing our young families, or they have to go out, but you came back and to raise your family here. So what makes it such a unique place to raise your family? Is it because all those things you talked about, or maybe share like why you're in love with North Dakota on top of what
really what the big thing with North Dakota, and like I said, I got out for a year. I went out to the West Coast to a suburb of Portland, Oregon, and I wanted to see the big city. I grew up on the farm. I went to Grand Forks and Fargo, and I ended up in Bismarck. And I was still drawn to the lights, even after leaving the farm, after, unfortunately kind of walking away from that generational success as a farmer.
Right.
And as much as I wanted to leave, and as glad I am as I had that experience, coming back meant maybe even more because it gave me an appreciation of what is out there and also how great it is here. One thing that I, like about my experience in North Dakota is that I've had the ability to work as a small businessman. I've worked in, government regulation. I was able to learn, the ropes and to be part of that. I was able to work in the Bakken and, just really kind of coming together and rising to the situation that we're in. And, we're in an amazing situation right now where, we're not really supposed to leave the house and social distancing, and we're trying to all be, epidemiologists with 3 weeks worth of, training on this one here. All these words are new to me, but I'm really actively trying to learn them. And I just appreciate the opportunity that North Dakota's given me in a unique way that I don't see people are getting in other parts of the United States.
Yeah.
Me and my wife kind of joke that I have to quit telling cab drivers in other cities that they need to come to North Dakota because our schools are amazing. There's virtually no crime. There's all kinds of jobs. And, the winters are really hard, but the hard winters make the week we're getting outside this week, or at least in Bismarck, is off the hook. It's like 75 degrees. It makes these days even more valuable because we just trudged through 6 months of, freezing weather. So I wouldn't want to live anywhere else. And kind of a story I have about what makes North Dakota great is I read this article on the most beautiful state to live. And North Dakota got dead last.
What?
And I thought, how could they rank North Dakota last? They must not have driven the road from Glen Ullin east into New Salem, south of interstate, because that's the most beautiful road I've been on in the state. But
well, not to mention the Badlands, driving through the Badlands, just in the Bakken. But anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm so offended.
I'm gonna have to look at my map. South of Beach, you can go south to Marmouth, and the road isn't on the map, but there is a road there, and you're just kind of in these back roads of the Badlands, and like, if you're not a local, you don't know that road. Like I said, it's not on the map that's next to me.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
Kind of where I was going with that is that, North Dakota is just this really unique place, and I there's not anywhere else. And so that I figure this writer got challenged with this ranking of the 50 states. And if I were him, I would probably book a flight to Fargo. I would spend 2 or 3 days driving around. I'd write my report knowing that North Dakota was already last. But, he never got fed a meal by a farm wife in the field on the 19th day of harvest at 6 o'clock when the soybeans are coming off.
Right.
And those aren't things that are visual. Sure, maybe the valley is very industrial ag and it's a lot of plots. There's not a lot of, relief lines, but, coming together to sandbag to save your neighbors, getting fed that meal in the field, those are things that, make it worthwhile. Being a 14-year-old in a town of 700 people dancing on a street dance, you're not going to get that in Portland. You're not going to get it in Chicago. You're only going to get it here. And I just hope that we can continue our homegrown prosperity and keep North Dakota a Class B state.
Love it. I love it. Yeah, I agree with all that. And it's hard to describe, when you go and show pictures of, gorgeous mountains or, Hawaii, but it's always hard to say what you felt like after helping somebody brand all day, and then to sit around and laugh about it.
Exactly.
And eat some of the Rocky Mountain oysters. I mean, it's just it's hard to describe. And so you have to experience it. You have to live it. And right. I really appreciate that. So you did bring up about the pandemic and being closed at home, and that you're a small businessman. How is this pandemic affecting your business or your livelihood?
So, I actually have a little bit of what I call survivor's guilt right now. The first time I encountered survivor's guilt was the flood of 97, where me and my family saw the flood coming. We worked really hard to prepare for it, and we saved our farmyard. We saved our house yard. We sandbagged. We ripped the carpet up in the basement. We carried the deep freeze upstairs. I mean, we got ready for this. And a neighbor maybe didn't work as hard as we did, and afterwards they asked us if we had survivor's guilt. Thought, man, I worked really hard for this. Like, I apologized, being the North Dakota boy I am, I always say I'm sorry. But, I felt bad for their situation, losing their basement and, part of their garage. But, when you talk about the pandemic, since we're in the construction field, we don't have a storefront. I don't have, rental revenue on our office that I'm leasing. I don't have, vegetables that are going bad in the freezer. So I feel really grateful that a lot of, the restaurant industry and the bar industry that are losing their customer base and their walk-in customers. We're not losing that. Bismarck is still really active with, construction in these times. Right now we're building a set of offices in a shed that's 60 by 400, this huge shed. And I feel that we don't really interact with the public.
Right.
Kind of as this was ramping up, I made sure to get all my product from Menards out to my job sites so that I set up my next 3 weeks so I wouldn't have to deal with, Bismarck and shopping. And so, I feel for those people that are, struggling right now. We're still trying to, maintain safe working principles, staying 6 feet away, from people that aren't within our circle. One thing I am trying to do is really to support small businesses. I've been in Bismarck for about 15 years. I really have to throw it out to my network, which helps me be successful, as the people I know. And I'm really trying to support, Jesse at the Pita Pit and, Stacy and Mandan, and we're trying to shop local and, pick up curbside to go. But, that's just, I guess, what we're trying to do.
Yeah. Well, and that's exactly what we do, whether it's a flood or a pandemic. And I understand how you feel about that survivor's guilt, because it really hurts when another business hurts or a neighbor hurts.
It does.
So, but I'm going to just leave this on a positive note because you are stuck inside. What is your favorite thing to do with your family in North Dakota?
So my favorite day in North Dakota is, so I live about 5 miles south of Bismarck. If you've ever been to Mary, I live kind of underneath the sheer bluff down in the trees, that gorgeous view you see.
Yeah.
And we have 2 4-wheelers. I've always had 4-wheelers as an adult because we didn't have them growing up on the farm. But I love four-wheeling with the kids. We can get down to the river in about 7 or 8 minutes. And I just love getting them unplugged from technology, getting Connor to set up his Fortnite, to walk away from it. And my favorite day of the year is the day before or 2 days before the 4th of July. My in-laws have a lake cabin an hour east of town in Dawson, North Dakota. And I actually ride the 4-wheelers out there. It's an hour by car. It takes me about 2.5 or 3 hours on the 4-wheeler, but just to be able, as a business owner and a family, just to let go of all that and to feel the wind in your hair and to see the North Dakota landscape for that many hours. And I'll tell you, your thumb hurts holding that throttle for 2.5 hours, but it's just kind of to unplug like that. That's pretty much my favorite day of the year. Everyone at the lake thinks I'm crazy for doing that, but I've kind of plotted out this back roads where I go, and that's my favorite day.
Well, I can't wait till you have your favorite day again.
Yeah, it's coming.
But, so Pat, that was a happy note. And thank you for being a North Dakotan. Thank you for running.
Of course.
But also thanks for being a small business owner too. It's the glue of our towns. And
so, Dr. Shelley, I have a question for you. I'm obviously a contractor. Today, I actually thought about taking this interview in the basement I was working at. We had a really hard day. We were doing sheetrock, texture tape, mud, and paint at 2 different jobs. And I'm looking behind you, and your walls aren't sanded to the level that I sand my walls to. What's going on with that background there?
That is, so I'm in my home. I built my own house with my own hands. It's a straw bale house. And so I'm on my great-grandparents' homesteaded land. And so this is straw bale. And so that homemade look, that's plaster. So that was plastered by hand. And so it has R value of like 50, if people that are watching for construction, has an R value of 50, but that's why it doesn't look like something that you would do, because I did it. A veterinarian did it.
Well, no, and that's, it's that ingenuity. You felt like you had to do, and you made it work, and you probably made a couple mistakes doing it, but it's homegrown, and I love that.
I had a bit of blood loss too. Actual blood loss.
Too fun.
Pat, thank you.
Yeah. Or do we have an audience? Are there any questions I can answer?
So
Or
what is happened is that
we lost it?